How has the pandemic affected your learning?
I've never been to my university as a first year. Um, we had planned to do practicals at uni and do field trips because there's a lot of field work in my degree, and all of that has been cancelled. So, yeah, I've never been to uni or met my classmates or anything really. So, yeah, I think I would say it's affected me quite a lot.
Since March of 2020, the global pandemic has seeped into every facet of ordinary life. Masks, lockdowns, even red tape on playground equipment. For the most part, people have accepted this and willingly played their part. However, one group has been continually used as a scapegoat by the government and the media, and blamed when following the rules. Hi, my name is Dan Fox, and I'm a film student. Over the past few weeks, I've been talking with fellow students across the country in order to get a better idea of how they are dealing with their studies during the pandemic.
How did the pandemic affect your learning?
Being honest, for me, as it was a computer science based course, it did affect me, but I feel like I was one of the lucky ones to be on a course where it worked a bit better doing remote learning. I've got friends who did, well, even film courses. My girlfriend's on a counselling course, and when there's a lot of in-person learning needed, if you're physically practicing counselling, you need to be in person. But luckily for me, I could work just from my computer. But where it really affected me was in seminars and lectures, particularly seminars. I really enjoyed having that face-to-face contact, and also being able to discuss with the class. When we moved on to Zoom calls, it just wasn't the same. It wasn't the same at all.
So I'm a mature student, so I don't live in halls or near halls. And so for me in particular, being a bit older than my peers on my course, it's been even harder to meet anyone at my uni. Just try and make friends. It's just been just impossible, to be honest with you.
On the 13th of March 2020, universities were advised to move to online teaching. A few days later, the entire country went into the first of what would be many national lockdowns. Over the next few weeks, students would struggle to find part-time work or financial aid, whilst landlords continued to charge excessive rent. One student-led group, Pause or Pay, decided that action needed to happen.
Pause or Pay started off as a hashtag asking for students to be brought to the negotiation table and for them to be able to make choices about their education. The goal is also, other than the demands, which are really simple, are in the name, the goal is basically to democratize higher education, especially arts higher education. There is a big disconnect between senior management and students. Senior management assumes what they believe is the best path for students without actually knowing what's happening on the ground. Most people in senior management are not academics, nor were they art students, authentically art students at some point. Most of them are business managers, and they think like a business. So they think of how to maximize profits, how to keep students in university, even though it's not particularly university at this moment.
Over the next few months, international students from China and other parts of the world found ways to end their studies in the UK, with many new international students refusing to enrol next year. This led universities to face the potential loss of hundreds of millions of pounds. To fix this deficit, university leaders strongly encouraged students to return and to enrol. According to UCAS, This led to a 9% increase in enrolments from the previous year. Was this a blessing or a curse? Students quickly realised that this year's education would not be like previous years. Students in Manchester and other universities found themselves quite literally being caged in, with food supplies often late and unedible. Previous promises of in-person lectures and best year yet attitudes were rapidly debunked.
Well, doing a drama degree during a pandemic is a bit jarring. I'm currently doing a module called Staging the Text, but obviously there isn't really a stage to stage the text, so we've been doing it all online, which is interesting, but it's just not at all what, I went to uni to do.
And what do you think the government or the universities should do?
I think that universities should understand that students aren't able to produce the same level of work that they're expected to when they're A, not getting the same level of education, and B, are under just the stress of the whole pandemic. Everyone's stressed by this pandemic. I've stayed up many nights thinking, is this worth my time and effort, when ultimately right now I'm not getting the education I thought I would, and it's affecting my mental health, and is this what I want to do? But it's difficult, but I'm halfway through it, and you've just kind of got to power through. But it's just difficult because I'm not enjoying my degree right now. I'm just like, okay, I just want it done, I just want it over.
I definitely have to say that it's become a lot harder to sort of just get through work because motivation has definitely deteriorated. Together with mental health and everything, it's become a lot more difficult to sort of just keep up to date with everything, since you don't have that constant sort of reminder of responsibility, since you're always just sort of stuck in your home. I have to put forward the fact that it will definitely affect your mental health to be in uni amidst COVID, because uni already has its own sort of struggles. But especially if you're someone who's sort of, you overthink a lot and you're quite socially anxious, it's not going to help you either, because you're not going to feel like you have that support. And then you're going to think, oh, I have all of this work, I'm not sure how to get across it. And then there's also the fact that I realized it's a lot easier to skip classes because you let anxiety sort of take over, and you think, oh, it's fine because I'm not there, like they're not going to realize. I can just say I've got this, or my internet wasn't working, and it sort of gives that easy escape because of all that anxiety that's building up. So it's sort of not having that responsibility of having to be there in person, sort of show up and not be able to just change your mind last minute. Just, it ruins everything.
So a lot of students now have to carry out their degrees from home, and sometimes provisions have not been put in place. They are still expected to produce physical work. And even if they weren't by their degrees, the art world still requires you to produce physical work. And the pressure is still on to do that, even though you're away from the safety of studios and workshops. And I've seen quite horrific photos of students burning their hands while doing metal smelting, students who are painting using oil paints in poorly ventilated areas. I remember a comment from a student who told me that they were suffering like coal burns on their hands because the studio space in their either their housing or somewhere wasn't well heated, and that was genuinely quite horrific.
The Student COVID Insights survey reported that 57% of students said that their mental health had gotten slightly or much worse since the beginning of the pandemic. However, some students have found the pandemic to be an aid to their studies.
It actually helped me a lot in the beginning because I had more time in my hands to focus on my dissertation last year. After that, I think it was May or so, when I was revising for my finals, as it were, so my final exams of my undergraduate studies. which were a bit tougher than the other ones from previous years. So the extra time also helped me focus even better. And also the fact that we didn't have exams, like physical exams, and we had to do an open book sort of coursework, sort of assessment for the end, helped me a bit, because it just relieved a lot of stress coming from different sides, which was very helpful, basically. I think everyone has tried ever since this whole problem started to do their best for the people that they care about, or they have to care about, or so. Everything can be done if you take good care of yourself and good care of the people around you. What the government could do about it is kind of actively listen to students rather than universities or what else, because it's very easy to hear the student's voice nowadays, I suppose.
If you were to talk to someone who's looking to join university in September, what would your advice be?
Really is, I think they should go on with their dream. If they want to start university in September, I don't think there is anything that can go between them and their dream, really.
Be prepared for teaching a lot of things to yourself and being self-motivated. That's definitely the hardest part of remote learning, is that self-motivation and learning to teach yourself rather than have someone else, because you can't just pop into your lecturer's office and say, oh hey, I have a few questions. Like, no, you have to email them, and then they have to reply, and then you have to set up a Zoom meeting, and then it's like people find it awkward. Most people at the lectures at uni just sit there with their mics off, cameras off. It's so awkward. Whereas in lectures, usually people I don't know, are just a lot more present and get a lot more from the learning experience.
Well, I've given this advice a lot because I started uni 2 years after my peers started uni. Just think of the reasons why you want to go to uni, and given the current situation, just ask yourself, are you really going to enjoy it? If you're going for the education, then yeah, by all means, I'm sure, hopefully things will start getting better come September. But just really sit down and think, because it's a massive commitment. It's a lot of debt that you're going to be going into, and just, yeah, it's not all about the uni experience, because when you get the uni experience taken away from you, like in this pandemic, it really makes you think, gosh, like, why am I here?
Actually, my brother, I don't think he's eventually I think he'll go to university, but I don't think he's even going next year. I mean, you might as well wait till you're actually getting the full experience.
I defer. Don't join. Most of us are thinking, and we can see the universities are still planning for blended learning the next academic year. Probably, I mean, if the pandemic eases up, they will still have the next academic year being blended. And it's been a worrying trend. I've heard at other London universities that they're considering a hybrid model sort of forever as well. It's a bit worrying, but I mean, I digress. So if someone were to join university in September, keep very good documentation of all communications from the university, including brochures, anything they put on the UCAS website, because God, you're going to need it.
Well, honestly, I probably would have said not to go, because it's like, it's quite, I don't know, it's weird to sort of start off knowing how it's going to be, because you know that it's not going to be the same. You're going to have to sort of adjust all into it. It's like when I started, although it was already amidst COVID, you didn't think it would be as bad. Like, it suddenly plummeted after I started. So everyone sort of had hopes, which was why they even went. But as soon as I started, quite a few people actually dropped out. So honestly, I think, especially if you're not used to it, and perhaps if you've taken a gap year, now's not the time to start going back to uni.